Ah, Texas, the lands of cowboys and a powder keg in the North American continent. And that doesn't stop being the case in the After the End universe, where now the Lone Star State is divided with Texans, Comanche, Louisianans, and Mexicans all competing over the region. So today we will be playing as an unexpected candidate for the struggle as the German Texans and recreating the old Lone Star State. For this campaign, we shall be starting off as Colonel Isaac of the Golden Crescent. He's a Texaner Duke, following the Americanist branch of the exceptionalism that has Teddy Roosevelt as its main figurehead. Surrounded by many hostile rulers eyeing up Texas, we shall go on with an intrigue focus that will help navigate and manipulate other rulers to do our bidding. Immediately, I had my religious courtier get a claim on one of our holy sites that is currently being held by some Imaginarians. They are too weak to defend themselves, and from being vassals to some voodoo ruler in Louisiana or Comanche, compared to a fellow Americanist, I think there's no competition. And so, with the help of my neighboring ruler, Duke William, we managed to conquer not only the holy site, but also expand to other Americanist rulers that were getting eaten up by the Comanche threat up north. As I knew I would be next in the chopping block if I didn't do something, I decided to swear fealty to the Comanche tribe's king, while also changing my contract so that he couldn't revoke my title, as we were from a hostile faith, even if that meant we had to pay enormous taxes to the king. With this newfound liege, I switched my focus to stewardship to get a meritocracy perk as fast as possible to later claim my liege's kingdom. But this newfound contract also came with the benefit of being able to expand internally, as my liege would conquer land and hand it away to small counts that I could eat up and strengthen my own inner realm. My scheme to claim the throne was completed, and with my liege growing too much, it was time to murder him. But to make things easier, I also killed his spy master, removed myself as his steward in the hopes of him giving me the title of spy master, and the retard actually did so. With that, it was the final nail in the coffin for him, and he was swiftly murdered, splitting his realm in two as he conquered too much Texan land and the Old Star Kingdom formed. With my new liege being so weak as I controlled almost all the internal land, I claimed his title, created a faction to install me as the new king, and went to war for my claim. He was severely outmatched, and with the help of local allies, the Comanche were deposed and I was now a mighty adjutant general. To make sure my realm was stable, I murdered my former liege, killing his claim to my kingdom in the process, and revoked the last title of the last Comanche in the Texan land. While this was happening, the powerful kingdom of Louisiana exploded into a dozen counties and duchies, right for the taking, and so it was time to expand to eastward. But not before the great General Isaac died of old age, and so his son Isaac II took the mantle left behind and continued his father's work of conquering more land from weak rulers. and murdering rebellious vassals, and defeating those rebellious vassals, revoking their lands, and claims to my land. And even murdering the Comanche ruler yet again. All typical things here in Texas. As I was feeling strong enough, I decided to declare war on the northern Mexicans to push them back to their side of the Rio Grande. But just as I was busy fighting the kingdom of Nuevo Leon, the child king of the Comanche was still not too happy of me killing his dad, but he only really declared war for an insignificant county, so I just gave it to him since I was not going to divert resources over fighting the New Leonese. We eventually won the war and finally reached the Rio Grande. And that's when I also noticed that the New Leonese had started converting the cultures to theirs. And one important thing to mention is that their culture is one of the best, centered around high development, and even had access to cowboys. Something that even though we're technically Texan, we don't have the tradition to use cowboys. How retarded is that? But anyway, I started to promote cultural acceptance, so someday I would finally be able to create a hybrid culture and get access to those sweet the cowboys. As I was no longer tied up in the South, it was time to teach the Comanche kid a lesson, so continuing our dynastic tradition, I killed the child king and used my unpressed claim my father had on the kingdom of Comancheria. With similar numbers, I united my allies and went to war, just so I could get stack wiped. Yeah, the thing is, the Comanche are nomads slash tribal, so they use prestige over their men at arms, and they just spam the fuck out of their special cavalry. So, back after reloading a previous save, I killed the bitch as a way to release my anger of being stack wiped, even though it was my mistake. But anyway, and with her heir, I started a plot to abduct her. And why is this, you may be asking? Well, simple. Mere moments before putting the plan in motion, I declared war for my claim, but because the plan was already in motion, the percentage of capturing her by being at war doesn't tank, so I basically took over my entire claims without a single casualty. I then proceeded to murder her to avoid gaining claimant factions, and then I possibly made the biggest mistake of this playthrough, as I destroyed the kingdom title to release many of the heretical vassals, and so I could conquer them one by one later instead of having to deal with a massive revolt of revoking titles, leaving the opportunity for the Comanche to rebuild yet again instead of dealing with them right there and then. But you know what? Oh well. I did do some vassal management though, and continued my conquering spree in the region of the Rio Grande. With enough counties, I formed the kingdom title, and I took it as my primary title, as the white color and the coat of arms were just so nice. I tried vassalizing my former ally of El Alamo, but he refused, so there was only one way to integrate those lands. I did manage to vassalize his former vassals, as I took the Duchy of El Alamo from him after the war. I continued my westward expansion before noticing that the Comanche had already reunited the kingdom, so yikes. But again, instead of eliminating them before they started growing even more powerful, I decided to use my invaded kingdom, Casus Belli, on the kingdom of Napoleon to form my hybrid culture and finally get access to those sweet, sweet cowboys. The war itself was really easy, to be honest, thanks to the Neo-Leonese fighting some rebellions of their own, and so with that, the industrial region of Mexico was now under my direct control. But as expected, the locals were not exactly pleased about some German Texan dude coming in and telling them to praise Teddy Roosevelt, so as you can imagine, a massive rebellion broke out, threatening to undo all my work. But the good thing is that even though they may have a lot of numbers, at the end of the day, they're still just a bunch of peasants. So if you catch their stacks divided, it's fairly easily to destroy the rebellion, and that's exactly what happened. With the help of my allies and me catching the rebellious stacks divided, we crushed the rebellion. But for some reason, I don't know if this is a thing they changed with the patch in the base game or something with the mod. Because even though I had pacified the rebellion, meaning the provinces should get a modifier that voids them forming another faction, was not working or something, as I fought yet again the same rebellion. And I say this because this must be something from the base game or the mod, as this exact same thing happened in my previous Canada video. But oh well, the rebellion was pacified yet again, and I thought it was time to end the Comanche threat once and for all, as they were starting to regain their original strength. But even with all my allies, they simply had too many men-at-arms thanks to them being tribal, something I think they should nerf. Tribal should not be able to have that many men-at-arms, but I digress. So I was forced to reload a lot of saves to avoid getting completely stack wiped, and by this point my ruler passed away into the next life, so RIP. Thankfully, by playing smarter and not leaving my allies behind, our superior numbers were barely able to beat the Comanche cavalry. But yeah, because I reloaded the save as a previous save, and my ruler died yet again. So again, rip again. Anyway, after blood, sweat, and tears were shed, we won the war and we took the important city of Dallas. So while I waited my truce to end, I decided to have more fun in Mexico and take the region of Pecos. But first, as is tradition, I murdered the ruler so the alliances would be nullified. And as expected, really, the war was easy compared to dealing with the Comanche, you know? But I guess murdering everyone in my wake finally caught up to me, as my guy was murdered, only ruling 22 years compared to his ancestors, ruling like 60, 50 years. So, yeah, bad luck. So anyway, I wanted some revenge for my guy dying, and what a better way than getting it all out on the Comanche by killing another one of their rulers and going to war over their capital. But compared to the other last two times, I knew better, and this time I hired a bunch of pikemen. Well, I say a bunch, but it was only really a stack of pikemen. But at the end of the day, that basically nullified the Comanches' advantage in the battlefield. Although we almost lost one battle, but thankfully my allies saved the day. So again, now I had to wait until my truce was up, so this time I went to Louisiana and I took the valuable port of New Orleans. By this point, cultural acceptance had reached the point where I was able to create my hybrid culture with the New Leonese or Bravo culture, and so our pillars remained mostly Texan, but in the traditions department, we actually took more Bravo slash Neo Leonese traditions, and so the name of this new culture would be Rio Grande, as this would be a union of peoples who inhabit both sides of the magnificent river called Rio Grande, also known as Rio Bravo in Mexico, but I digress. But more importantly, I now had access to the Cowboys' men-at-arms, and just in time as my truce with the Comanche was up, and with a final war over their kingdom title, I would be able to destroy the United Menace. Now that I had even more pikemen, the Comanche were no longer the boogeymen that once haunted the Texan, or should I say Rio Grande people. But for some reason, I don't know if this is a curse or something, my ruler also died during the war. I don't know, man. I guess this family is just cursed or something. Anyway, we swiftly ended the war, and after Comanche's other war ended, I usurped their title, finally fracturing the horse riders that tormented this entire playthrough. And my mental health. Later down the line, one of my vassals got elected as the president of the Americanist faith, and so I lost the land he owned, but immediately died, so it caused more troubles by having to revassalize everyone. Thanks. Anyway, as I was cleaning up the borders in Mexico, the fake Pope in St. Louis thought it was prime time to take over the Kingdom of Louisiana, so I quickly ended hostilities in northern Mexico to prepare for the crusade, and so the Catholics were determined to push the followers of the Founding Fathers from our rightful land. Outnumbered 2-1, the only way to defeat the superior foe was to catch their troops off guard one by one, before they could regroup and organize a proper offensive. But inevitably, they managed to link up together, so this called for some mercenaries and basically go bankrupt, but thank the Lord, that seems, oh well, actually, would have to say thank Washington. Well, anyway, that seems to have done it, as the Crusaders were routed, and after besieging some land, the pitiful crusade of the fake Pope was over, with the spirit of Washington victorious. And so finally, with enough kingdom titles under my possession, it was time to create a new empire worthy of all my subjects. One that would unite this powder keg region into a single state, ready to provide security and prosperity to this mess once called North America. The empire of the Rio Grande was now a thing, an amalgamation of German, Texan, and New Leonese people with some extra land in Louisiana. But I know some people would get mad if I didn't show forming the Empire of the Lone Star, since this is a Texas video after all, so you know what, for those people, here, have it. And so, with this new cultural union, the peoples of the Rio Grande advance to the bright new future ahead of them after defeating all of their rivals. If you would like to see more content like this, remember to subscribe, as this really helps out the channel. This was the Defectus Expert, your dismissed soldier.